Thank you so much once again for joining us on the Camnet TV Breakfast Show, where we bring you nothing but the best in terms of what is happening in entertainment, education, and national affairs issues. I am your host, Miriam Kaimba, and in studio, I am not alone. I'm joined by my beautiful colleague, Zipporah Mshara, and we'll be taking you in the next an hour where we'll be discussing various issues. Among them, we are looking at disability rights in Zambia. We'll be joined by a guest shortly who is going to help us, discuss all our topic in detail this morning. Anyway, before I go, Zipporah, I steal the spotlight. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam, and good morning to our viewers out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning in April, and it's surprising how quickly the year is moving. But anyway, I think we are achieving some of our goals that we set for ourselves.
Soon will be in December, and we'll be counting what are some of the things that we have achieved so far.
By December, I should have at least 2 cars.
Oh, God, I love that.
Anyway, but like you mentioned, we have an interesting topic today where we're discussing disability rights in Zambia. We just had the Democracy Summit, Miriam, which was held, on Wednesday and Thursday last week, and we've heard quite a number of complaints from persons with disabilities saying they did not feel adequately represented. So what issues are affecting them? They've also been complaining that many of their groups which have been, applying for constraints development fund have not been benefiting. So they're saying there should be, that difference for persons with disabilities, saying they should have some extra favor when it comes to these cooperatives. But anyway, before we spoil the show, let's just have a little exercise as we get ready to start our day. Let's have the morning boost. very exhausted. They are quite an interesting exercise. Miriam, I hope you're able to follow those steps up and down, up and down.
I did, but if you saw that white man in the background, was like, was he really exercising? He was just busy checking on the time. But anyway,
so, use some energy.
You need to use some energy, and you need to be aware that exercising is very important. It helps improve your brain, and also you get a good sleep. Quite important.
And it helps you to wake up in the morning.
Wake up in the morning.
Morning, yeah. Just now let's just take a look at what the doctors have for us in the health corner. But like always, make sure you always listen and put to practice what the doctors have for us. So let's just take a look at the health corner. Do we have that?
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakobea Namfaya. So this week we are talking about yet another interesting topic. It's a condition that is very common amongst us, and we see it a lot in our communities, in the hospitals, and we're going to be talking about tuberculosis. It's an infectious disease and it's very easily transmitted from person to person. So we want to be able to understand exactly how does it come about and how is it that people can get this infection, and also we want to know what are some of the signs and symptoms of this infection, and how is it diagnosed and treated in the hospital, and also what can you do to prevent yourself from getting this disease called tuberculosis. So tuberculosis is a condition that mostly affects the lungs, and it's a condition that comes about from being infected by a bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So this bacteria can be transmitted from person to person, and usually people get it through that kind of transmission. So if you are exposed to somebody who has this condition and they secrete these aerosols that contain this bacteria in the air, and then you inhale that air and you end up getting the infection as well. So once you have this infection, it usually settles in your lungs and it will affect your lungs. So the primary place where you can get this, or where you have this infection, is in the lungs. Most people who have tuberculosis have pulmonary TB or pulmonary tuberculosis, which means pulmonary means the lungs. So they have TB in the lungs, and so the infection usually attacks the lungs and it forms some cavities in the lungs, causes some lesions in the lungs, and in some cases you can find that other people would get the infection elsewhere. So from the lungs, it's possible that the TB can travel to other places of the body as well. So it can go to any part of the body basically, so to the brain, to the stomach or the GI, that is the spleen, the liver. It can affect even the kidneys. It can affect any part of your body. It can affect your lymph nodes, it can affect your skin and cause some lesions on your skin. It can even affect your eyes as well. So this condition does not only affect the lungs, it can affect any other part of the body. The other common part that usually is affected by this condition is the spine, or the vertebral column. So people would have what we call Pott's disease, which is TB of the spine. So they would have this condition in the spine as well. So depending on whether it's a newly diagnosed condition or you are having it again, you can be treated differently based on how or based on whether it's the first time you are getting this infection, or it's a new infection, or it's an infection that is reoccurring for the second time or the third time. And also based on where it is, whether it's in the brain, whether it's in the back or the spine, whether it's in the kidneys or elsewhere in the skin, there are also different ways of treating it, and also different time periods of getting treatment for this condition. And also these days now we are also having multi-drug resistant TB, where people who have had this condition before and they were given treatment and they did not adhere to their treatment, or they did not take the treatment completely, they did not complete the course of the treatment, they might end up being reinfected and have what we call multi-drug resistant TB, where they have this kind of TB that is resistant to so many drugs, the drugs that we usually prescribe for tuberculosis. So if you have multi-drug resistant TB, it means that we will have to use other types of drugs to treat the condition that you have. So basically what we are talking about today is that tuberculosis is an infection that comes about by being infected by a bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which comes about because you have been exposed to somebody who has this infection. And so when the aerosols are released in the air and you inhale those aerosols that have got this bacteria, you can become infected as well. And the primary places where you can find this infection is in the lungs, but also it can go to any other part of your body. It can affect your kidneys, your liver, your stomach, your lymph nodes, your skin, your brain, and even your spine as well. So tomorrow we'll be talking about some of the risk factors. What are some of the risk factors? Are there people who are at risk of having this infection, and who are those people? So we want to understand what are some of the risk factors of TB. So make sure you watch again tomorrow. And if you would love to know more about so many other topics that we talk about here on the Health Corner on the Breakfast Show, you can also look at my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Nakobea Namfaya Siameka on YouTube, and you'll be able to learn more about all these conditions. So make sure you watch again tomorrow. I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care of yourself, and God bless.
I hope you learned one or two things with the doctor there, where she was talking about, TB and how someone can get that. But anyway, moving forward, we go direct into our money market and see how our currencies are performing. We have the Great British Pound there buying at 26.08 ngwe and selling at 26.59 ngwe. We have the United States dollar there buying at 21.04 ngwe and selling at 21.45 ngwe. We have the euro there buying at 22.19 ngwe and selling at 23.35 ngwe. We have the South African rand there buying at 1.19 ngwe and selling at 1.21 ngwe. On the United States dollar there, already on the buying side it's on 21, and the selling part it's now rushing toward to 22. That's our foreign exchange for today, the 3rd of April 2023. But anyway, right about now we move direct into our zooming headlines before we are joined by a guest in studio this morning, where we are going to be talking about the rights of persons with disability in Zambia. But anyways, Deborah, just zooming in some of the stories that we did over the weekend. We saw on Saturday some motorists in Lusaka were complaining that the 93 ngwe, the Energy Regulation Board, the reduction Energy Regulation Board, announced of fuel, of petrol, to say it's a mockery. 93 ngwe is not even close to 1 kwacha.
Yeah,
that was their complaint.
If you put those three goes together for 1 month, at the end of the month, we'd have saved 10 quarter.
So they were hoping that ERB should have done the same, like the way they did with diesel, the price of diesel. We did see a reduction of almost 2 kwacha, yeah. So they also wanted that to see that. So the 93 ngwe for them, they're saying it's a mockery, and anyway they're hoping for the best as we, this month we review again, or as we come to the end of this month and we do our review. They are hoping that anyway by this time around we should see a reduction of maybe at least 3 kwacha.
Anyway, hopefully, we just hope. And really, an interesting part is that we saw where the Minister of Energy was saying that they, withdrew, got some diesel from the Kazama pipeline.
Yes.
So I hope that that will actually, work out
caution, yeah,
and cause to lead to a permanent price reduction moving forward. So I hope so. It's good, and we want to have our own refined fuel and all that.
Anyway, we hope for the best. We hope for the best. Just like the way we have been hoping with the dollar and the kwacha thing, we will pray for the best, yeah. Anyway, moving forward, let's go direct into playing that story on motorists on fuel, where they were complaining and saying it's a mockery to them. The Russian-Ukraine conflict has made running a vehicle in Zambia an increasingly expensive affair. Fuel price in the country now retails at a cost above 26 kwacha per litre. Yesterday, the Energy Regulation Board announced a 93 ngwe reduction of petroleum, while 2 kwacha 97 ngwe for diesel. Petrol will now sell at 27 kwacha 59 ngwe, while diesel at 26 kwacha 28 ngwe.
Oil prices and the change in the transportation mode for low sulfur diesel, despite the depreciation of the kwacha against the United States dollar, have resulted in a downward adjustment in the price of petrol and diesel. Meanwhile, the prices of kerosene and Jet A1 have been maintained because they move by less than 2.5% of the wholesale price trigger that.
The new fuel pump price announced by ERB has, however, not been appreciated by some motorists in Lusaka, who claims no difference can be seen.
Chirungamo boma yatu pamene apo chesona tiganizireko ndrama yamene wanachaja poikira mukazanga saka mbiri vazaikira maybe 3 kwacha 4 kwacha 5 kwacha, but reduction ikabwera ipo pezeka ati vafaka wachusa ka 1 kwacha ka 50 ngwe masi panga sense. It's better ngati bafuna ngati vaikira ko 3 kwacha pochosa wachusa ko 5 kwacha paja izooneka nayo weka bokoza kwamba taboma yatu isevenza mwamwe netizivira kuti ati vintu vonse funa konkhala bwino my price boko ikonga mwamene vinaliri na price imene yankhalapo by now na mwamene yendera itamangira vasiyana kutali maningi. Otherwise monga ife stingakwanise mona mataxi ensevenza na heavy muntu lokamchaja ndrama kuti peto inadura savomera akana azafuna mtengo uja ung'ono uja then kuti uibalance economy nayo pezemo kanonga sale na keve na vakuti usakire chakudya munga mweni vinambo vutira ndiye mweni tipezera ife mayuth vavuta so pamene apo ndikapemba kuti boma itiganzireko.
Motorists whose vehicle use petrol states that the 93 ngwe reduction by government is a mockery.
In fact, we are complaining the government should at least reduce so that at least we feel better as Zambians. And the other issue that I want to add on is concerning RATSA. Yes, RATSA, I think RATSA is becoming an impact whereby we are being forced to go to court without being charged, without knowing our charges, then we are only taking to court. From there, we only told us pay 900. For what? Pay 600 or pay 3,000. So we don't understand. As some other regime back, we usually face some challenges whereby when it comes to identity or maybe road tax.
With no clear roadmap on how to get out of the current challenge, a deep sense of uncertainty looms over the country. Government and its citizens hope and pray that at the end to a conflict dragging 1,000 miles away will bring down fuel price at home. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Quite interesting there, Miriam. But one thing I've noticed is that people always complain in Thai, they complain in introduces, they complain, so I don't know.
But Zipporah, I share this this sadness, this news with them. For me, 93 ngwe Zipporah, At least if they did 1 kwacha 50 ngwe, at least the difference would have been seen. But 93 ngwe, and then come, you know, anyway, God forbid, but anyway, maybe when we come to the end of this month and then they want to review again, they increase. And then what's the benefit at the end of the day? Okay,
Yeah,
so those are the concerns. If they're going to increase with 3 kwacha, meaning the time they're coming to reduce, at least a difference should be seen. Maybe by 2 kwacha, the reduction should be by 2 kwacha or 1 kwacha 50 ngwe, but 93 ngwe. Come on.
Anyway, well, so stakeholders have been suggesting, you know, like a 6 months
review. Yes.
And anyway, I don't know, the same want to be reflective of the market price is fair. If it reduces on the international market, we say reduction and vice versa. So I don't know anyway. Because
you know, this review of every month, again, it's also coming to impact a consumer, you know, a person who buy different commodities. If you own a shop in Mtendere compound, you know, you have to transport your goods from one place to another, meaning you're using fuel. And again, if fuel goes up, your product likely will go up, your commodities will go up. You say, in a sininga toseko mtengo anti, fuel ya kweli. And then the dollar again, it's high. Okay, so at the end of the day, a consumer will be affected. But anyway, moving forward, we have another story where we did of a little girl, 7 years old, in Kabanana compound who is suffering from cerebral palsy. And you know, the parents are appealing to well-wishers to come on board and assist them. Let's get direct into playing the story, and we'll continue with our discussion. Life has not been easy for this couple of Lusaka's Kabanana compound raising a child with cerebral palsy. Masozi Banda and her husband Thomas Mutonga have 4 children. They are both unemployed and states they are living in stress watching their younger daughter Faith Mutonga, aged 7 years old, suffer due to the damage caused to her brain during the birthing process. The couple did their best to control their emotions as they explained to Camnet News the challenge that comes with caring for a child diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
So pobadwa paja napeza kuti anachito forcing then anatoka kwanja ya left. Then anachedwa kulira. So mkuchedwa kulira naenda ku hospital kwendo shita complain. Vanakamba ta umwamena achitira so ikwanja izankala ko yovuta kuti kankhale nomo buno chukwa mavenzi yankhala wiki pamene paja pobadwa. Then na ku brain sazankhala nomo munga banzake na kukula sazambokula munga mwamene yanakulira banzake wonse. So ndiye ma challenges yanapezeka kuli huyu. And for sure pamwana manja na 7 years and some months saenda kukamba ngati muntu wina ngusanga vimveri vomvera isoro vinangu vitipita pate vinangu timamvera.
The couple knows too well their daughter's condition has no cure, and all effort to see her live with a great autonomy and independence has been quite a challenge. They are now appealing for medical and financial assistance to enable them enroll their daughter in a special school where she can learn personal independence and get assistance to develop social skills.
Ninavuta yauti sinisebenza, so nifuna ati mwana mwanga ngapunzile but niswawa mumpelekela ku school. Pamene alile apasaenda but ana 7 years mwana. Vama niuza ma kulituma mandantu wetu mabwera wauti ya mwana muzibwera naye ku school but ipezeka tikapezekela kutali. So hapa waliko wenango natuza ati nezimpeleka ku Foxdale but moendera na eve ni masowa moendera na eve nilibendrama sinisebenza but challenge ni amene so even baby woka inashita weldingira neka chabena nimpangire cheyo shita weldinga neka.
Cerebral palsy is a group of disorder that affects movement and muscle tones or posture. It is caused by damage that occurs to the immature, developing brain most often before birth. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News. a quite sad story there. But anyway, we hope that the little girl will receive, the help that she is seeking for, and the parents there, given the fact that they're both unemployed and they depend on on small piecework jobs. So we hope that indeed people would come on board and assist the family, so that the girl is taken to a special school, just to help herself improve in social skills. Quite important out there, Zippo.
Yeah, quite interesting. And Miriam, we did see another story from George Compound, and I didn't even know this, Miriam, where people have these conditions like hypertension. I didn't know that it leads to, blindness.
Oh.
Eventually. So we have this 70-year-old man who says he's been in and out of, UTH for, 6 years. He has hypertension, and he developed cataracts in the eyes. So this is where, like, your eye lens is covered by something white.
Okay.
So then you start seeing things blurred, or you see double vision in one eye. Imagine seeing things as if they're split. And all that, but then they're saying he can get that removed through surgery, but he cannot do that at a private hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, where they need that surgery. And so everything altogether says he needs about 5,000 kwacha. It can, seem like, oh, that's nothing. But imagine for someone who lives in George Compound, I'm sure that's really a lot for them.
For them, yeah.
Because even just, basic food, they can't afford. So that's the. And then this also shows you, Miriam, the inequalities that are there in the healthcare system. Because, health is a human right. Now, why should it be dependent on, if you're poor, you have to suffer. If you're rich, you get good health. It should be, something that is accessible for everybody in a country.
But then, don't we have that services at, government hospitals? Where he can be operated on?
Being at UTH in and out, I don't think, maybe he has to pay a certain fee, I'm not sure, but he has been in and out, and the doctors from UTH actually advised him and gave him a file saying, you can have this treated, you can have this surgery. So on Friday, yesterday actually, I was been talking to him, was like, so on Monday I have to go to UTH, the doctor has to give me a file, for the surgery and all that, but they lack the money.
Anyway, let's get direct in playing that story, and we'll continue with our discussion.
An estimate of 75,000 people in Zambia are blind today due to cataracts, an eye condition which leaves the eyelids clouded, according to 2022 statistics from the Zambian Ministry of Health. The number of people with this condition is predicted to be rising annually, with conditions like hypertension increasing the risk of one developing cataracts and going blind. This is the condition that a 70-year-old man from Lusaka's George Compound, Philemon Shumba, has found himself in, stating that he suffers from hypertension and has developed cataracts, which are increasing by the day. Mr. Shumba narrates that he was retired from the Ministry of Justice, where he worked as a driver some years ago on the said medical grounds, stating that he has been in and out of the University Teaching Hospital, UTH, for 6 years now. He, however, states that there is hope, as he was told that he can get an eye surgery from a private hospital, but says the procedure, added with transport, will amount to about 5,000 kwacha, which the family does not have.
So manje hapo ine chinani kanga kuti ndrama nzaka spesa kuti so na manje nikalikuvutika nisakira ndrama. So manje ninaendanso futi na kuchani kumukinge kuja ku Northwestern Province ku Kasempa kuja kumkinge nako barakambata makatracts aya kufunika kuyaita remove msanga otherwise is not.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Her name is Gertrude Chima, a 31-year-old from Lusaka's Kanyama compound, and mother of a 5-year-old girl named as Jennifer Musimuko, who suffers from hydrocephalus, a condition which causes ventricles in the brain to fill with liquid and also leads to muscle dysfunction and tightening. Her child's condition entails constant medical care, meaning that the single mother who only depends on selling at Lumumba market is always a task in ensuring that medicine is bought. The woman's bad luck was, however, short-lived after a donor from Switzerland came on board to offer help to her and other parents in a similar situation through a non-governmental organization focusing on children with disabilities known as Papaya Care Foundation. The woman has, however, come forward accusing the named foundation, alleging that its founder and executive director Sandra Mukwavi opts to loan her the donor money with a 50% interest.
Nevanakana tinsazitenga ndrama ndine zitenga kuli bebe and then bebe ndrama mzungu akavatuma manituma kuti niyothandizira mwana so and then bebe po ndrama yopothandizira mwana vakapasana manipasa kuti ndonibweza but apa natenga nakwanisa vabwezera yonse so apa naendako futi natawa nifuna utengako ndrama. We
also spoke to other beneficiaries in an effort of trying to find out what really goes on at the organization, with the said beneficiaries having a positive story to tell.
Tukamba mabweze doya roni haya ndrama mwatenga mzakwanisa mkubweza mamanthi angati inamba na business hapa pali manje whether ili buno ngakukwanisa kubweza roni mu 1 month. Esenzo oziwa tironi tenga wa bwanji na kamba ironi ya mwatenga mge brand sumzaikapo interest ilionse ironi ya mwatenga makamba kapena nguma challenges yo shitika kuli wana atsama zika tuvazadu wala wazasta bwanji mzabweza roni mu 2 month kubweza kwa kaena mza 1 month mabweza mo 500 the next 500
initandiza wana mulungu initandiza maningi anso kugula madaipa ya mwana sisi bana watumuze wajafuna madaipers nafu kujeva vamema madi so palicho ni mamikira maningi mulungu then palija ndrama wananipasa kulibe interest iliyonse yoikapo kulibe wananipasa so 7,800 ndiame nakwanisa kusichani ndiame nakwanisa kubweza.
Papaya Care Foundation Executive Director Sandra Mukwavi in an interview described the accusations as malicious, stating that the structure of the empowerment is a revolving fund which comes in form of a loan, but states that no interest is attached to it.
So an MOU has been signed with Blue Spring, where the funds were sent, and then the loans are given out to the parents. So first of all, we have to do financial literacy training with the parents. Then we do verification. I don't do that personally, my friend. There's a team. We've got a bookkeeper, we've got a project coordinator, we also have field officers who do home visits, and they are the ones who have the real experience of these parents because they go in those communities.
By broadcast time, the foundation executive director had been summoned to Lusaka Central Police to answer to the allegations leveled against her by the complainant. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. Thank you for staying tuned in. Just now we transition to our next segment where we're joined by Mr. Thomas Mutonga, who is a disability rights activist, as well as Mr. Munashe Nyamuti, who is an assistive technology expert. And they're here today to help us discuss disability rights in Zambia, focusing on the just ended Democracy Summit that we saw on 29th and 30th March 2023. Also discussing as to whether persons with disabilities had adequate representation, and also touching on assistive technology in Zambia. How far are we in terms of ensuring that all persons with disabilities have access, easy access to, technological devices without anything such as, poverty hindering? How available are these things here in Zambia? Good morning and welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Isbora and Miriam, all the members of Camnet, and also all the viewers out there.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nyamuti. Your name is quite a mouth.
Nyamuti.
Quite a mouth.
Yes, no, it's a foreign name.
Okay.
It's a Zimbabwean name, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, thank you so much, Zipporah, for having me. Thank you so much, Miriam. And also thank you to Camnet TV, so that we are here to explore more about this particular subject that you've just brought to life.
And I'm sure I'm actually, looking forward to learning a lot about assistive technology.
Exactly. Maybe you can just highlight us what is this all about, the field that you're in.
The field of assistive technology.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So, the field of assistive technology, really, we deal with assistive adaptive technologies, like the name says, adaptive technologies. These are technologies which are there to help people with disabilities to operate at optimum levels, like to function like any other people who are able-bodied, so to say. So, assistive technologies ranges from softwares or hardware. So you can find that we can say assistive technology, but it's just a small software, maybe which is just talking, but it aids in enabling someone with at efficiency, let's say in vision, to be able to operate at optimum levels. So something that you can access as someone who's who has a vision, who has sight, someone with vision better can also access that particular thing with that particular software or assistive technology.
Yeah, so I think it's like, Zipporah, you're able to see, Miriam, you're able to see, and I'm blind. When I lost sight, the difference between you and me is 83%. Okay? So when you lose sight, you lose about 83% of the ability to perform at optimum level. So with the assistive technologies, I should be able to perform at the same level with you. So like Zipporah, I think we have been sending each other WhatsApp messages, of course, have you ever tried to ask, you say?
No, I wonder. I'm like, I can write to some message, I can write to him on WhatsApp, and we communicate normally.
Exactly. So I don't ask someone to come and help me write. I do it on my own. So, because if I have to, for instance, if I have to ask my wife, come and write for me, she'll be asking, hey, who is this? Is So I have to do it on my own, and you can see, for instance, a computer here. A computer here.
Yes.
It's on. Okay. Yeah. So the computer here, this computer is just like any other computer, but it has a software. You can hear that it is speaking. So by speaking to me, let me, yeah. Okay, so I'm commanding it to speak. Okay, so this computer is an ordinary computer. It's HP, and I have installed a screen reader. What is called a screen reader? So that screen reader makes it navigate the whole computer. And the screen readers are, for instance, there is what is called JAWS, Job Access with Speech, and there is also what is called Dolphin. So I'm able to navigate on the computer, and that's what helps me mark students' assignments, go on the internet, without actually depending on another person to perform for me. So that's assistive technology. Exactly.
Quite interesting there. But coming to you, Mr. Mtonga, we have seen that despite government adopting a number of laws and policies pertaining to persons with disability, you still continue to say you are still facing various challenges. What is it that we are doing wrong as a country?
Thank you so much, Miriam. Yes, Zambia apparently has very good laws and very forward-looking laws, emanating from, for instance, the Disability Act of 2012, which is an act of parliament assented to by the president. Now, the issues are really that, for instance, the Disability Act, when we talk about education, I want to just pick an example of education so that I explain your point. So, for instance, on education, the Disability Act presents that a learner with disabilities should be able to access inclusive education. Okay, now Zambia has been in the trajectory of inclusive education for a long time, but we still have a huge number of learners with disabilities that are not able to access this education. So the question is, where are we getting it wrong? Yeah, so the issues are that there are a lot of issues at play here. Of course, we can talk about government, but we also need to talk about the stakeholders. For instance, inclusive education. You find that in most of the schools, inclusive education is exclusion in inclusion. Okay? It's exclusion in inclusion where you have a child with a disability in class and he does not participate in that class. So the issue is that what can we do, for this learner who is in class, in an inclusive class, to be able to participate so that he, when he comes out of that class, we should be able to say he has learned something. So the implementation of inclusive education, that's where the issues are. So it's the blame that we can, of course, give stakeholders. We also need to think about what is government doing. Material provision, where are we really getting those materials? And what type of teachers are we presenting towards that? So in that case, we cannot really say it's a one-factor issue. I know that the government, of course, is doing whatever they can, but I think the task is huge. And we still have a lot of children with disabilities who are not able to access education.
Quite interesting there. And we hope to see actually some policies that will support inclusive education for all. Coming to you, Mr. Nyamuti, would you have a question here on Facebook? Maybe you can just respond to our viewer who says this needs to be publicized more. PWDs, I think that's persons with disabilities.
Yes, not the police who are
PWDs are lagging behind in education, employment, and social life.
Yes.
So maybe just give us a breakdown. What kind of assistive technology is available right now? Maybe for people with what conditions? How, what is the price range in Zambia? How is it accessible? Are these technologies and all that?
Oh, okay, thank you so much, Sephora. So the thing is, like Dr. Mtonga has been mentioning, majority of the products that we have, first of all, are to enhance the inclusive education, that system that we have in Zambia. Okay, so that inclusive education system, we are trying to enhance to say, children or learners with disabilities, they should be able to learn in mainstream classes with other learners. But also, more interestingly, we have assistive technology also which enhances the employability of persons with disabilities. For example, I'll start from there. We have a screen reading software like Dr. Mtonga has just been showing you. It's called JAWS software. Okay, this screen reading software, its main purpose is to read and help him navigate through the computer. Okay, so as he's going through the computer, it will be giving him feedback of everything that he's doing, such that each and every task that he's able to complete, like he is well informed of what he's doing, and he is independent, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Okay, number two, we have items for people with visual impairment, like I've mentioned. We have a gadget called an iPod Solo, or a hack reader. This is a book reading and a book scanning machine. I think last time when we came here, we brought that gadget, where you put a paper which is in print, okay, just in print. And it should be able to read for you. So it reads for you what's in print. So Dr. Mtonga here can have a paper which is in print. You can send him a paper like a hard copy paper, and then he's able to read that paper using that particular gadget. Interestingly, to a student, it can also help a student to scan information which is like in print, like that, and he can scan to a Word document which he or she can edit or put some notes, and also audio version. So in other words, we are saying it can be able to do that. We have items like a Braille Note Touch, which is more like a Braille laptop, like this, but I mean it has Braille interfaces, which you can type using Braille, but a message can come to me in print. And I respond to you in print from my phone, and the message comes to you in Braille. You'll be able to read it in Braille. I mean, such are the kind of like gadgets that we have. So that gadget can allow you to even do Excel. It can allow you to do PowerPoint. It can allow you to do Word. I mean, everything that you can do on an ordinary computer, you can still do with that gadget. Then we come to people with autism. We have some gadgets for people with autism. Like, you know, people with autism have challenges with speech. So those guys, we have gadgets which aid in speaking. Like gadgets which speaks for them. So what we just have to do is, if I'm a parent and I have a child with autism, I can just program the gadget, okay, to speak for the child. So the child's duty is just to press where the response is, okay?
Yeah.
And then the child, you ask me, how are you? But then on the gadget, there's a point where we say, I'm good. So just pressing I'm good is going to press and it's going to speak, I'm good. You see?
But first of all, you may be talking about autism. Do you use Zipporah and Miriam, do you know what autism is?
Yes, we do know what
that's great. I'm humbled.
Yes. So upon that, that gadget is able to help and break the communication barrier which exists, because it's not everyone who understands sign language. You see, so a child, if they have that gadget, it makes it easier for a child to be able to communicate, be it a teacher, be it anyone who's surrounding them. Okay, and then apart from autism, we have gadgets for children with mental challenges or learning disabilities. You find that children with learning disabilities, sometimes teachers can be impatient. Why? Because we'll just be repeating the same thing.
I think you are referring to children with intellectual
disabilities.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So if I am to tell you, Zipporah, my name is Monashe, today, like just now, after maybe 5 minutes, you would have forgotten. You see, so we repeat that over and over and over again. You find that maybe up until we finish the day, we are still struggling with the same thing. But there's gadgets to help with that. Children with intellectual disabilities, they love playing whilst they are learning. So you have gadgets which are like toys, but they aid in learning. So you find that as children are learning, they are playing. So they understand concepts better because they will be learning while playing. So we have gadgets also, for majority of the disabilities that we have in Zambia. Even cerebral palsy, we have some gadgets for them, wheelchairs which are customized, which they can just put on seat belts so that they don't fall, for safety and all those things. We have some software, and one interesting gadget for people with cerebral palsy, because they have, they are not stable in terms of hands, they shake and not. So we have a gadget which is called an infogrip switch. That gadget is like a computer mouse, which allows them to use a computer. So using an ordinary mouse is hard for them. So how do they do it? That infogrip switch, it's like an ordinary mouse has a motion sensor underneath, but this one has a motion sensor on top. So that motion sensor is in form of a ball. So you just roll the ball. As you are rolling the ball, the cursor will be moving on the computer.
Yeah, so you can roll it using your chin.
You can even roll it, yes. Using your chin, even your legs.
Yeah.
So it also helps you.
Okay, even using the breast.
People with physical challenges. Like let's say you are amputated, it can also help because you can even use legs. Anything that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So even to type, we have a software which is called Dragon Natural Speaking Software, which you dictate to. Like you just be speaking and it will be typing. So this is like, that's just a brief of a lot of things that we have. I think for much of the things that we have for this user, especially that of the users on Facebook, they can go to our Facebook page, CrossSkin Zambia. They should be able to see majority of the things that we have from there.
Are these gadgets that you've spoken about, they're quite interesting, are they affordable and accessible?
Okay, affordability is one thing, accessibility is another thing.
Yeah.
But to be affordable, I have to say yes, they are affordable. Affordability ranges on the value you place on that particular product. But honestly speaking, they are affordable, considering the technologies which are invested in those particular gadgets and everything. Trust me, those gadgets are affordable. And availability, they are very much available. Like I'm speaking, just calling GrossCare or just going on our GrossCare Facebook page, you should be able to see all those things, and we should be able to provide you, or even visit our office at Curriculum Development Center.
Yeah, maybe just to mention one thing, Miriam and this, of course, you may wish to know that, of course, as Zambia, we have really lagged behind in terms of assistive technology, and that's why, as an organization, we called the Defeating Blindness in Zambia. We partnered with the GrossCare so that we should be able to bring these gadgets closer to to the heart of Zambia. All along, these gadgets would only be found in South Africa and Kenya. And then, of course, later on Zimbabwe. But what really created the gap in Zambia is that we did not seem to know that we can use these gadgets. So this time, at least we have these gadgets available at a stone throw, and everyone can easily access them. And we are housed at CDC, Curriculum Development Center. Even for the Ministry of Education to give us that office, I think they realized the need for those materials. Yeah. So
you currently are operating or working in collaboration with government for this same...
Yeah, we are a stakeholder.
A very important one.
A very important stakeholder, yeah.
Maybe touching on other disability rights, we also have the issue of, the Constituency Development Fund.
Yes.
CDF, do you feel that maybe persons with disabilities have benefited enough from this initiative?
Okay, first of all, I think we need to address the composition of the CDF committee and the World Development Committee, because if the people there are not disability friendly, what will be happening is that if there is an application from a person with a disability or from an organization with a disability, they will easily turn it down. That what can people with disabilities do? You see that understanding. So for the World Development Committee, I think there is a provision in the Constituency Development Act, Constituency Development Fund Act, where it states that there should be someone from ZAPID, okay, on each World Development Committee. ZAPID meaning Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities. And then it also states that there should be a person with a disability from the community. Except maybe for the usage of the word ZAPID, because ZAPID is not a membership organization. It's an umbrella body for all persons with disabilities. So, but the provision that there should be a person with a disability on the committee, that's a positive step. I think a very good step in the rightful direction. Because I know that if there is a person with a disability, and if that person knows how to work with other persons with disabilities, he will honestly support, the applications for persons with disabilities. But I must hasten to mention that, of course, we know that not all people with disabilities, have a heart for fellow disabilities. Some of them may have a disability and they don't want to talk about anything to do with disability. So we hope that most of the World Development Committees have members who are persons with disabilities themselves, and they are able to speak for other persons with disabilities. Now, having said that, I've heard of people with disabilities who have benefited from the CDF at world level, but I think the complaints have been more than those that have received. And the complaints have really been that, for instance, most of the persons with disabilities are not educated. And so you find that it's very difficult for them to really do the business plans and even access those facilities. But at a higher level, at the CDF committee level, which of course does the disbursements of the funding and the, where they make up the agreements and all those things, I think that one really needs the Minister of Local Government to look into it, because when you look at the CDF committee and the composition of the CDF committee, it's basically more than 70% are nominated by the Member of Parliament himself. And the few other people who are found there may not really have a lot of influence. And then there is no clause, in the Constituency Development Fund that a person with disability should be represented there. So with that, it gives a bit of shaky understanding whether the people at that level would be able to think about persons with disabilities who are the most marginalized in society.
Coming to Mr. Nyamuti there, how has feedback been when it comes to, to you talking about this gadget, this technological gadget that persons with disability can use in their daily life?
Yeah, since we've been here, we spoke about assistive technology. I think it was early last year, around April. I think.
Yeah, it was April.
April, yes.
Yeah.
So it's exactly a year.
Yeah,
it's exactly a year, yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was the first week of April.
Oh, indeed, exactly, yeah, indeed.
It says that it was Tuesday.
Yeah. So you see, last year, like we mentioned, we were on a drive to sensitization. Sensitization because, like Dr. Mtonka has mentioned, these gadgets are relatively new now that we've lasted a year. So they are relatively new now. So we were just on a sensitization mission of trying to make people understand that we have such assistive technology which can help people with disabilities to perform and operate at optimum levels.
Yeah.
So, honestly speaking, we have seen some reaction. Zambia is really embracing assistive technology and the usage. Of course, not really to say everyone has come on board, but it's an issue that even if the government, you can see that there are some responses even within the government itself to show that there is some determination to make sure that people with disabilities have the same access, be it to information, be it to technology, as those guys without disabilities. Yeah. So, as of now, honestly speaking, in terms of reaction, there is a steady and improved reaction towards this, and we hope that maybe with this coming year that we're entering, we also see an increased reaction towards the usage of assistive technologies.
In fact, Miriam, I was quite impressed last year. I think that was June, July. The Permanent Secretary, Minister of General Education, called for a meeting for us to go and demonstrate on how to use these gadgets. And we found him already seated in the in the office where we were doing the demonstration from. And really what he spoke at the end of the demonstration was so touching. He said that, you see, people with disabilities, our learners with disabilities, have been ignored for a long time. And this is the time we really needed to show a mark towards persons with disabilities. And of course, he has continued making inquiries. We hope that we know that with the goodwill of the president, most of the schools will be able to access these gadgets, so that we should reduce on the failure rate of our learners with disabilities by allowing them, use gadgets that make them perform at optimum level.
Yeah. Very interesting. There we do have another question from one of our viewers who says, where can one learn how to use assistive technology? So yeah, I think that's the question. Because is it like you just know automatically? Do you have to be taught, or maybe?
No, you actually have to be taught.
Yeah, you have to.
Because majority of the gadgets that we have are not very complicated, but if you don't know about them, it's a thing whereby you might not know how to use them.
Yeah.
So our office is always open at Curriculum Development Center, where people can get to come and.
But okay, maybe in all parts of the country. We have to come to Lusaka, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As of now, I have to say yes, you have to come to Lusaka, because like we are still here within Lusaka. Of course, sometimes we move, like last year, we were moving to the Copper Belt and all those. But I mean, we are central in Lusaka, and that's where we are mainly centered. But then, I mean, if it depends with the particular assistive technologies which they want to use. I mean, nowadays there is technology We can even operate even via Zoom meetings. It all depends now with the kind of training that the person wants. But should the person be in Lusaka, or if they can access to come to Lusaka, Curriculum Development Center is always there, depending on whatever they want to learn. You can either find me, or you can either find Dr. Tonga. We can teach you both on computer usage, how to use screen reading software, or on the other assistive technology devices that we have, the new gadgets that we have. We can teach you also how to use them, and to show you how they can benefit you in working or even in studying. We are able to do that.
In fact, it's better. If the people want us to travel to Chingora, for instance, organize a transport. What can stop us from going? Because anyway, personally, Miriam and Spora, my passion really, I know when I'm talking about this, I know how much persons with disabilities are lagging behind. And that's why I have a passion that it will be a revolutionary step if our children with disabilities can learn on how to use these gadgets at an early age. Actually, for instance, the gadget that he talked about, the iPod, I've been thinking that we need to even convince Electoral Commission of Zambia to be able to buy, such gadgets so that they help people with vision impairments to do the voting. Because right now, the voting is still heavily dependent on human help, where I have to go with maybe my wife, help me tick. But the iPod, when you put a paper there, it's able to read for you, and it can guide you, where you can put the X that you want to. And it's not something that everyone else would be listening to. You can put headsets there. So you are able to listen, and you tick where you want to do. Unlike the situation, because it's your wife, you trust her, you have been discussing issues. What happens if she has...
She makes you go for another
Actually, I also wanted to emphasize, you see, the issue of assistive technology, just on Saturday, we were having a blindathon. By some people, we invited people, courtesy of Sisabelo Saka School. So we invited people to say, you can just be blindfolded so that you have an experience of how it is to be visually impaired.
And you guys, you needed to be there. You were overtaken by Kamala Harris.
Yeah. So you see, when we were there, after the blindathon, we witnessed a child, a small child, 8 years old. His name was Joshua, isn't it?
Yeah, Joshua.
8 years old, from Sisabelo Saka School. He was operating one of the machines that we do provide, a Perkins Braille. And I was amazed to say, so if it can be done from this young age, you see, 8 years old, when he grows up, like maybe to reach 14, 15 in secondary school, he's totally independent. He doesn't need anyone, as long as the school has those particular gadgets. I mean, it's easy for a child to learn like that. So I can actually use that Sisabelo Saka School as a reference point to say, if people want to see the power really of assistive technology and all, that school can actually show you the power of how assistive technology can help transform people's lives.
Yeah.
And maybe even as we go towards concluding, Mr. Mtonga, maybe you can just briefly touch on the Democracy Summit that we saw last week, where you adequately represented as persons with disabilities.
Well, first of all, a lot of congratulations to Zambia for hosting such a high-level delegation meeting. Of course, I've been following. The first such meeting was held in 2021, and Zambia hosted this conference as a second host. It's like in a class where you are, maybe you are more than 40 or 50, and then the teacher says, no, we want Miriam to demonstrate on how to solve this mathematical problem. You must be proud, I think, because the US is a leading democratic country in the world, and for them to really settle for Zambia and say that Zambia should be able to demonstrate on the issues of democracy and the fair and the free and fair elections. That speaks volumes, of course, and that's why I'm saying that a lot of congratulations to Zambia for hosting that summit. Now, as to whether persons with disabilities were adequately represented, you see, the word adequate is a very relative term because what is adequate? If there are 100 people and you are 10 of you, is that adequate? But I think it suffices to say that persons with disabilities were involved. And there may not have been so many. I mean, it was a very high level type of meeting where they could not, manage to call every person with a disability. But those that were there, we are very sure that they spoke for persons with disabilities. And I think the people that I know were present in the summit are people who are able to speak and they are able to articulate issues to do with persons with disabilities. And you remember, I think even the president read something on the persons with disabilities. And I think that those colleagues who attended the conference should have impressed it on the president that we are here and you cannot ignore us. And I think so far so good. Most of the people, different groups of persons with disabilities were represented. The deaf, the blind, the physically disabled, and okay, except maybe the intellectually disabled.
Quite interesting there. What could be some of your concluding remarks, Mr. Mtonga?
Yeah, you see, the Democracy Summit was really heavily looking at the issue of electoral systems in the world. And just like I mentioned, that we are hoping that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is taking great strides to ensure that persons with disabilities really participate in full in 2026. And especially persons, I think the people that have a lot of challenges are persons with visual impairments, persons with hearing impairments, and then persons with physical disabilities. Now, for persons with physical disabilities, it's basically the infrastructure. And for persons with hearing impairments, it's the issue of sign language. And for persons with the visual impairments, it's the issue of the voting itself. And that's why we are saying that, because I think I've been voting since 1996. Yeah.
Interesting.
Were you there?
No, before I was born.
Yeah, so I've really seen, of course, there are a lot of strides that the Electoral Commission of Zambia has taken towards persons with disabilities, but I think we still have maybe 40% to ensure that we reach there. And for persons with the visual impairments, I would really encourage that the Electoral Commission of Zambia buys the assistive technology, the digital world, so that persons with the visual impairments are able to vote for themselves instead of depending on another person. I think that's my real take as we celebrate our democracy as a country.
Quite interesting. Mr. Nyamuti, your concluding remarks?
Yeah, quite like Dr. Ntonga has mentioned, independence for people with disabilities is exactly what we are seeking. So when we are talking about people with disabilities, we are just talking about independent living, okay, whilst being able to operate at optimum levels. So, like he has mentioned, I think there's not much to add, but we need to embrace the usage of assistive technology so that we push towards this drive of independent living. And then when people are able to live independently, I mean, we have an equal society. Okay, we are trying to avoid a situation whereby we preach to say there is equality, but at the same time there is no equality because there is some minority group which is not being looked at. Okay, but otherwise, inclusive education, like we've mentioned, it needs to start from the grassroots So that when children, like let's say for example our current children who are grade 1 up to grade 3, when they grow up to until maybe when they are in universities or they are now policy makers, we need to have a change of mindset as a nation, because at the moment, it's still a bit difficult. But we need to have a change of mindset. We embrace assistive technology. It needs to be our thing. Like he has mentioned, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, they have full measures in place to make sure that people with disabilities are well catered for and they use assistive technologies. So we also need to follow suit. I mean, if you see your colleague doing something good, can't you copy? You also need just to copy to say, no, this is exactly what I need and this is nice. I mean, you can just copy the good.
Exactly.
You don't copy the name as well, no, you just copy what the good part. So I think for me, that's exactly my take on how assistive technology needs to be embraced here in Zambia, yes.
Quite interesting. Even as we head towards 2030 development goal number 5, of ensuring, equality. You need to make sure that there's equality in all areas. So anyway, that's quite something that we have to embrace as a country. This is where we do come to the end of our breakfast show today. But remember to join us tomorrow. We've had an interesting topic today talking about disability rights in Zambia. And we're joined by Mr. Munashe Nyamuti, an assistive technology expert, and Dr. Thomas Mutonga, a disability rights activist, who are helping us discuss this interesting topic. So do stay tuned in and join us tomorrow on another edition of The Breakfast Show.